Hello?
Hello.
Hey. We'll just wait on Derek to jump in. Hi, everybody. Welcome back, or welcome to those of you who weren't here this morning.
So we lost Ryan, but that's all right. We can make. Hey, Derek.
I'll just announce to everybody that we're starting shortly. And once Derek and Nico are ready to go, we can open the text channel. So this time it's going to be in the one called 6 p.m. AMA session. Open soon. Let's do a microphone check. Derek?
Derek has turned into a cat.
Sorry, no. Yeah, that's sorry, Mike. Yeah. I'm doing this from home, so my cat.
Oh, that's your cat. So that means that we probably can't. We can't hear Derek. I don't think.
No, we can't hear him. For some reason. It was working this morning.
Derek, did you shift locations to home as well, or are you at the office still?
He said he's still here. He's still at the office.
Wonder what changed then. Interesting.
Does your microphone have a mute on and off button, maybe? On the mic itself, like it's the headset?
Go under options to voice and video. Just make sure nothing's changed there. Sometimes I find that changes. You want your input device and output device to be correct. Mine are just default and it works, but if you're unplugging your headset and plugging it back in, those may have changed. Well, Tina, I think we should open it up, get the questions flowing, and Nico and I will start answering and hope that Derek can get the.
Yeah, I'll answer what I can.
Alrighty. Get your questions ready, guys. It'll be in the one called. Oh, here it is, 6 p.m. And it's open. There you go. Holy, so quick.
All right, I know a bit about this first question from Russ, so I guess I'll take it.
Well, if it's Mech Lab related, maybe I should just jump on that one. I just, I was just halfway reading it as well. Yeah, I mean, I knew for sure that there'd be plenty of people out there that would be, disheartened, hoping that it would be a lot more flexible, a lot more like MWO as far as, I think a lot of people are asking more along the lines of sized hard points. So, for example, pull off that medium laser, but put a small laser on. Oh, so there's a question here about the Mech Lab. I really can't read it to everyone in the channel because it's quite long, but this morning we were giving more information about the Mech Lab in that you still can do quite a lot. Like you can take off unused weapons, you can add more armor, you can add heat sinks, you can remove jump jets to free up space for other things. You can put ammo and heat sinks in any location on your mech, and there's a lot of flexibility there. But when it comes to the weapons, in order to protect the weapon-based variant, the variant system for the free market, it was mentioned that you can take off medium lasers, you can put on similar different medium lasers from different manufacturers and such, but you're not going to pull off, let's say, all 4 medium lasers and then find a way to squeeze a large laser on that Jenner or something. You can't go to that level of customization and greatly changing the mech. That'd be a situation where that Raven would be useful because it has the large laser versus the Jenner, and so it's a design decision. I think to answer your question, though, it's a design decision. It's really not a technical decision. So the ability for modders or various people to change that to be like MWO, I think would be trivial based on the way we've built the slot system and the Mech Lab system. I think it would be quite trivial to answer your question. But Nico, I'm not sure if you had more of a technical side.
It absolutely is trivial because all the assets for all the weapons in MWO for each hardpoint are in the game as of now. I don't know if they'll be removed to reduce file bloat or anything in the future, but as is, all the things are there. You just need to plug them in, and you could do it from day one, pretty much.
I think all it would take was you changing the hardpoint designation from medium laser to just energy too, and then basically any energy could go in there if you had the room for it. So yeah, it'd be easy. We feel strongly about taking the game in this direction, or it just won't. I think it's key to making the economy of the game and the free market system of the game work. So that's our choice. We think it's the right choice for the single player the mercenaries experience, but I think it's really just for that. It's again trivial to change that if modders want to do that, or even if we want to unlock that in a near post release expansion pack or something like that as well.
Can you guys hear me? Am I coming in?
Yeah. Hey, Derek.
Yeah.
All right, finally. All right, made it.
Cool. We're just one question in.
The USB.
Yeah, unplug, plug back in. Okay, we're moving on to the next one.
All right. Assuming there will be screens inside the cockpits, will they portray real and useful information such as heat levels or local time of day? Any information would be shown through the HUD, not necessarily on actual screens inside the cockpit.
Yeah, I would say we're really focused on the HUD. At this time, there's not really a screen system like there is in MWO, because as you point out, it's kind of neat in MWO, but it really isn't used enough to justify it. So I think that's not something that's an initial release goal. I'm going to answer Imperius here. We just talked about this in the boardroom yesterday. Yes, the answer is yes. All that stuff.
So the question being whether weather effects will have effects on the cockpits, so frost, rain, etc.
Correct, and they will.
So a question, will we see any new biomes in MW5 beyond what's in MWO? Yeah, Ryan answered that in the morning session. So the ones we currently have are the grass plains ones. We've got the more foresty biome, a deserty one, some moon ones. So similar to MWO in the sense that, like, yeah, there's Desert Canyon and we have a deserty biome, but I think, you know, players would be hard pressed to say they're same or anything like that. So I think there is a good change from MWO as far as the difference between the biomes.
Yeah, I almost feel like they're all new, really.
Then there's another question from Sebastian. On a note-related environments, will we have access to a third-person camera that will allow us to take screenshots? Replace system that would facilitate this instead.
Well, there is a third-person camera.
Yeah. I think as far as like a camera that's on like a photo mode level, not currently, though what extent the Unreal commands will be opened up in the final game, but you know, they're very easy ways for the player to actually go free cam out of it commands. So if that's what you're asking, it'll be supported through, you know, in it.
All right, so I'll take this one from Mike. Regarding mech animations and MWO feeling bouncy, and if there's any effort into making them feel heavier in MW5, yeah, definitely. One of the biggest directions the art team has been pushing mechs is to make them feel heavy and weighty and like proper stompy robots that they're supposed to be. And that'll just keep getting better as more and more revisions go in as we go forward and closer to.
How would we describe the target look of MW5? For example, bright, new, shiny versus dark, rusty, oily, or dirty. That one?
Sorry, what are you asking, Derek? You answering that one?
Oh, I was just wondering if you wanted to step in and.
Oh, I mean, I think Mechwarrior, in general, is a little more towards the dark and dusty a little bit. I mean, there are aspects of the leopard hangar and the office area that go a little more towards bright and shiny, polished, but the mechs and the mech hangar all give off a little more of a dark kind of feeling, I think, and rusty and you know, working environment feeling. So as far as it changing based on factors such as faction, I think you know, who you're fighting for and stuff like that would make some changes, like you'll through signage and, you know, in the front end of like who you're talking with and dealing with. But primarily your world view, your world environment is the hangar of the leopard. So it will have a sort of a consistent feel throughout the game. And I think you guys have seen enough, I think, screenshots of it to understand what I mean. It's certainly not bright and shiny and perfectly clean. It's a little maybe more on the darker side out in the hangar and a little more on the dusty, oily, you know, active working environment where your mechs are being fixed. So that kind of thing.
Then we got a question about, will the player's starting mech always be the same? If not, what options might we encounter? Yeah, your starting mech is dependent on your starting location. So it does vary based on essentially which faction you want to align yourself. I don't remember which ones they are off by heart, but yeah, very.
Yeah, we don't need to list those details yet, in case we change our minds. But basically, yeah. So there's 5 different starting mechs. You can choose one of the 5 great houses as far as where you start. So there is 5 different starting. Just say yes to Not So Deadpool. Will there be any chance Lost Tech Weapons mechs or Starleague caches? I'd say yes. I think that's in our plans for the storyline, and I don't want to give anything away, but
Then a question about will we see more realistic bolt-on like pieces for like foliage camo netting? I think currently our customization comes of bolt-ons, so I don't think right now there are plans to include those as far as.
Yeah, there's no bolt-on system plan for Mechwarrior 5. It's focused on patterns, color swapping, color wheel, and we hope to get decal patterns, decal overlays as well. So that would, but there's no plans yet for, let's say, cockpit items like hanging cockpit items, standing cockpit items, and like bolt-ons. Those things. Never say never, but it's not part of the initial game's release plans. I don't see biomes affecting the movement of the mech as far as, ice moving slower and stuff like that. They'll have an impact on your visibility, whether you're using vision modes or not, and they'll have an impact on the heat of the mech.
There's a question about essentially about mech collision. I think as for right now, it's going to be similar to MWO, where there's no knockdowns with two mechs running into each other.
Yeah, that's right. I think that's a correct copy and paste from this morning. That question. No, it's not. We're not undertaking the the animation workload of 250 variants as far as being knocked down to the ground, standing back up. So I think it's cool that it adds something to the game. It's not being ruled out entirely, but I think we need to get, the game, the base core combat and the core game perfectly ready and dialed in first, and then we'll see if we have animation time to spare.
Question from Quinn Allard about can you hire and or fire personnel like mechanics and pilots? Yeah, I mean, I think a more in-depth answer will go into like a gameplay AMA, but yeah, there's the element of staff management, especially pilots and all that.
HUD layout be changeable. I would say probably the answer is yes, but not to the degree you're thinking of like the 2016 pre-alpha layout. I would say no. It's really like the mech HUD is standard, but I could see the possibility of options for coloring and maybe so far as to like going with like an HTAL option on the damage readout instead of the regular one, like something like that. That'd be about as far as I could see it going, not to completely different different layouts. Be a great mod target though.
Is IK going to be fully functional in MW5? The answer is yes. I believe it's already currently working with just a bit of polish work needed, but it's in the game, and for the most part, it works well.
Will damage be visually represented in the cockpit?
Yes.
Yeah, I think to a degree.
Well, this is like a 2-day ago meeting in the boardroom as well. We just prioritized this over a couple other things. So, because all the programming work was done quite a while ago, actually. Buckton did a bunch of stuff, like I want to say more than a year ago. So we have all the hooks. So I can't tell you everything that we'll do, but like you can think of like cracked glass, small sparks, or even small fires in your cockpit as your mech gets really damaged. Yes, absolutely. I've wanted that in MWL for 7 years. Going to make it happen in Mechwarrior 5.
Got a question about will modifications be instant or will there be wait periods when it comes to cosmetics? We're talking just about cosmetics like paint jobs and pattern changes. That sort of thing would be instant.
Right.
Will you be forced to move up in tonnage throughout the campaign, or can you use a medium for all of it? I mean, I think as it stands right now, we don't have any missions currently that are requiring like a minimum tonnage or a maximum tonnage or anything like that. I mean, things might change, but the idea is no. I mean, if you want to try and play the whole game in, like, a 30-ton mech, good luck. But we don't have those sorts of restrictions.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good answer. I would say, one thing I'll say about that is we're not in MWO. We tried to avoid the power creep as much as possible, or not the power creep, but more the the need to have to be an assault. Like, you can see lights and there's lights on both sides and stuff like that. I think in Mechwarrior 5 are a little less afraid to kind of have this game be a natural power creep. So like arms race, that's the kind of term I was looking for. So like, yeah, it's a little more like traditional Mechwarrior games in the sense that end game elite gameplay, your entire lance is going to be pretty heavy duty. But like Derek said, I don't think there's really be any restrictions in place. So if you're a really good player, you might find that you've got 3 heavies and assaults with you, and you just love your whatever it is, Centurion, and you could make it work. It's definitely possible, but certainly as difficulty goes up, we're kind of expecting that you're packing some tonnage. So that's just how difficulty will work most likely.
Will there be knee or even waist deep fights in water that will limit the mechs to be taken into battle or affect the mechs in some other way, such as speed? As far as the gameplay side, I don't think there's anything like, mechs are going to move slower in water. I do believe there are on beaches or rivers where that will come into it, but currently right now, no underwater fully submerged battles or gameplay.
Right. How many different environments or biomes? We kind of answered this morning. We're kind of going with the number 20. It's a little bit difficult to answer because there's stark differences, like Arctic to desert to forest to Mars to the moon, but then there's also like sub changes. So you have like a terrestrial like forest world, but then you also have like a terrestrial Arctic tundra. So it's a very short grass with like everything looks really cold and frozen, but it's not icy, so there's variations too, and they all add up to quite a few different variations. So we're going to say we're throwing out the number 20, and that's just in no way kind of like a number set in stone, but there's quite a bit of variation. Space maps like the surface of the moon, Mars, yes, if that's what you mean, kind of like being on an asteroid or something. Yeah. HOTAS support, yes. If you saw the MechCon footage, if you didn't, go back and watch it. It's pretty fun, I think. We actually played a 4-player co-op game in the 4 superpods using the HOTAS joysticks. Played and finished. Anyone who's at MechCon could play and the entire MechCon demo using the HOTAS system. And it's definitely a lot more challenging. It's hard compared to mouse keyboard, but definitely gives you a much more simulation type feel as you kind of like back yourself into buildings and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. So yes, absolutely.
How destructible will the environment be? For example, could you raise a city completely to the ground? It kind of depends on what the city's comprised of. So if anyone saw the MechCon gameplay, there are the smaller buildings that are kind of more residential. Like those things can be completely destroyed. Bigger things such as like a giant skyscraper, you can destroy those to the point where there's like an inner core. So those are the only things I think that still leave a footprint. So other than giant skyscrapers, unless I'm forgetting something, pretty much everything can be taken down.
Yeah, those same style of buildings, I guess, don't have to be overly tall, but there is that one class of buildings that you can basically destroy the entire outer shell of, and so they look kind of spindly and destroyed. But I mean, I would just sort of answer this and say it's almost a yes to this question. Like there will be some taller, bigger ones, like Derek said, that aren't going to be flattened, but a large portion of the city can be flattened to the ground, and those ones that can't can be made to look almost as satisfactory as if they did collapse. So it's pretty much full destruction.
Yeah, I mean, I think the general rule of thumb is if there's something man-made, it can be destroyed.
No plans for Solaris 7 yet, Mechwarrior 5. Beautiful thing is with the platform we're making, DLC expansion pack content could add aspects to, because we're creating the entire map of the Inner Sphere and taking missions throughout the entire Inner Sphere, as well as story missions. So that would be a very easy DLC target, but it's not a priority for our initial release.
Okay, so two questions. How much horizontal distance will jump jets have, and will ACs have single or burst fire?
I think
go ahead.
Maybe this is outside of art AMA. It's okay for us to say, we're trying to answer everything, but we have 7 more months of AMAs too, so it's kind of important that we say, in fact, I should have said that to maybe the last 7 I answered probably, but we got to be maybe a little more strict about that and just kind of move along. Please save those questions, and there will definitely become a time where you can ask them. Let's try to keep this to the mechs and environments art-wise.
Yeah, so on that note, I'll jump ahead a bit. There's a question about what are some methods you use to make the environments feel distinct from each other aside from just visual cues. A big one is the weather effects are going to be a big thing that really impacts gameplay. We've talked about it a little bit before about how it'll affect visibility layouts. So, a wide open tundra map is going to play very different than a more mountainous or canyon type. So there's a good chunk in, stuff like unique assets. You'll be coming across giant mountains and glaciers and whatnot, and isn't just like throwing on a different saying, hey, this is a tundra now.
Environmental hazards. I can only think of there is some buildings and things, some that are flammable, things like that hold gas or something, and shooting those actually explode. Or if you just run into them with your legs, there's a lot of stuff that isn't going to cause your mech damage, but there is some stuff that will be causing some kind of splash damage if you walk into it, stuff like that. No war horns.
There's a question. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just jumping down to a question about from the max pool, will modders be able to create or modify environments or create new planets with environments? Yes, you can kind of create your own biome sets if you really want to go that far. I think we're all kind of looking forward to seeing.
I think we answered that biome question there. How many are going to be at launch? Kind of skipping over the pilot scale up question. It's a good question, but we're going to save that for another. I think we already answered knockdown mechanics, really. And I'm also worried about things being exploitable by people playing co-op. Since it is co-op and there's no PvP, we're not really worried about the competitive balance. It's like you and your friends want to do things like that. It's up to you.
Yeah, there's another question about dynamic weather. Yeah, so we're having weather and all that dynamic as changing from one weather state to the next. I think that's kind of still on the table as far as it goes. I do believe we have that functionality.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard tale of them working on it and intel that we can do that and stuff, but I don't think yet we've sort of seen it work really well. So I guess we're just a little skeptical that if we can get it to work really well, we'll have it. If not, then we'll just stay with a particular theme. it's okay to have a bit of a theme for the mission, I think, because these missions really do take place in real time. Like, we're not really, like spending time trying to do complex time of day stuff with the sun moving across the sky. I mean, it's all in there, but you don't see it, because, I mean, if a mission takes, 15 minutes, let's say, our attitude really is that, like, I mean, it's real. Like, you were in the cockpit. It took 15 minutes to get down there, traverse across that area, and level that city and leave. So it's kind of like real time simulation. It's not like a whole day went by on that planet or anything like that. So things, the time of day, the weather, and stuff like that is not really needing to do a lot of changing. Total number of mechs. We're going with a 250 number. Roughly 50 chassis in our timeline, all with a bunch of variants. So let's work on it, 250 variants. Will we have maybe lighter weight and smaller version of AC weapons and vice versa? Yeah, maybe. We really haven't uncovered every way that we'll do manufacturers, which are essentially, quirks on the weapons. So not really ruling anything
out. It's a question about how will environments such as vacuum work. Yeah, that's something we haven't really gotten too much into, but I think we'd all like to see the different biomes having different effects game.
I mean, I think obviously heat is a certainty. It's just and a lot of people have been asking the question similar in this sort of like heat dissipation baseline. It's sort of like maybe going a little layer deeper than we're thinking. We're just really comes down to a base, I think, heat level, a modification on the mech based on the environment. There won't be knockdowns with heavy fire, but Nico, you can talk maybe a bit more about the animation blending system and when you're taking fire. I know you talked a bit about.
Yeah, so there won't be knockdowns, but taking heavy fire is definitely going to you as the player. Right now we have 20 takes per mech for receiving something like an AC-20. And that's going to jog your crosshair and your cockpit. So while you won't be knocked down, you're definitely going to feel the punishment if you just continuously let people hit you. And those 20 encompass getting hit from every direction in each part of the mech. So it's definitely going to be satisfying to get hit and to hit.
I'm moving along to, and I guess we can answer Quinn Allard. I'm not going to go in the depth because it's more of a gameplay question, but just as it pertains to the mechs and art, you take one lance out into battle, but you're not going to be restricted to owning just one lance. So in your dropship and in your cold storage, and we haven't decided a final number, but we're working with like maybe around a dozen or so. Maybe a dozen can be in cold storage. Somewhere on that, nothing's locked down yet. It's just a number that we can tune into the final minute if we want. But certainly you can own more than 4, but you're going to be taking 4 into battle. Is there going to be a physical copy of the game? I really want there to be. I talked about this at MechCon. The possibility of us working with someone like Limited Run and creating that opportunity, but I just can't promise anything yet, but just know that we're thinking about it. And Andy Nagasai, I think I answered that really on the, it's possible to have differences on planets like that. I just don't think it's really necessary for us to do that for our game that we're making, because again, the missions are going to be very quick. So I could see that maybe coming into play. Not going to rule that out, but I say really quick, again, like you're going to be spending 15 to 20 minutes on on the planet's surface getting a mission out of the way, so it's not really that much time to show things like you're talking about there with fast rotations on some planets and things like that.
Okay, going through them. There's a question about, can you run around on foot beyond the leopard? Well, I mean, I think there's a small part in section where you start on foot, but no, it's just leopard.
I see. Yeah, there is one other area at the beginning of the game, but primarily, yes. Moldy G's had a question there in the buildings. I'm not sure.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I'm just kind of cycling through them all. Will weapons damage the environment differently? For example, Gauss round hitting a building, punching shrapnel, debris flying, or messier chunk gore, if I'm reading that correctly. I mean, the way to think of it, anything destructible, anything man-made, right? So, if you hit something with an AC-20, it's going to, than if you pepper it with a machine gun. As to the level I think you're getting at with different, we're not going into that level of fidelity, but the weapons will definitely affect the environment in different ways.
Composite armor has an interesting question for painting mechs. I don't think the answer is yes there. Like you choose the pattern, you choose the color, but I don't think you choose material, like he's saying, like kind of like a choose shiny metallic or something like that as a material.
Yeah, not that I'm aware of. I don't know, Nico, do you know if there's a material picker as well?
I know that it's possible if you wanted to do it through mods. I don't know if we're going to have it in game on launch day, but if we don't, it's definitely something that can be done.
Yeah, it's a good one for Ryan. I'll have to maybe follow up with that one. Gold Mech owners, no, sorry, there's no time to Mechwarrior 5. As you know, that was a bit of an IGP thing. We still honor it and support it, of course. Thank you for continuing to support us. Love you guys. No, they won't be doing any kind of Gold Mech tie-in. And it looks like there's a bazillion questions here from Blood Spitter. Try to swim through that one, Derek, for like environmental and art. We've kind of answered all of them, probably.
Pertain to like, will the environment affect movement and stuff like that? 0G. Yeah, I mean, I think most of those we've already gotten to. Stuff like, will the lightning strikes affect aiming? There's a lot of visual noise with some of the big factor.
Yeah, I think honestly answered most of those things. A lot of these things we don't need to worry about. Not to worry about jump checks firing when you're submerged because you're not going to be submerged. We do have lightning strikes with wind. It's not going to affect your aiming. It's going to affect your vision. Primarily, it affects these environments. Affect first off just the look. So the beauty of the map is different. It could affect your vision if it's got a heavy storm, and it could affect your heat of your mech. Beyond that, I don't see slipping, sliding, and things like that. Possibility of weapon.
Yeah, go ahead, Russ. I'm reading that one too.
Special effects for certain weapons.
I think that's covered under weapon manufacturers and everything.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the question I take that as being like, will they have special weapon particle effects? That's a good question there. I think when it comes to manufacturers, there could be slight variations on coloring and things like that to signify that they're unique, but possibly not too. I mean, really, Mechwarrior 5 will have it all new set of effects though from MWO. I would suggest you've already seen that. I think in the footage, it's just everything's different and updated.
It's a question about will the mech react to environmental things like struggling through mud, wading through water, crashing into trees. Also, we already talked about previously, you know, running through a building will slow you down. Trees as well. It's something we're kind of actively tuning, so we do have the ability to. Thanks.
As for Opie's question on camos and patterns, I believe the current plan is if the camo exists in MWO, that's what will be in game. As for new camos, that depends on time going forward.
Well, obviously, we're creating a couple for the pre-order people. So you guys that pre-ordered have a new pattern or two, depending on what you pre-ordered. And then, yeah, of course, if we get all that in, we would look to put some more new ones into Mechwarrior 5. Just don't know how many we'll be able to fit in after we get those pre-order ones.
I'm gonna jump ahead because there's a few mission-related questions. Oh, there's one about Nico. You can answer that. Will there be a rocking effect when a gun is fired?
It is certainly possible. I know a couple months ago we were playing with that. Right now, it's tuned down to the point where it's not really an issue. But as we tune more for fun and cool experience, that could get higher or lower depending what we find.
Yeah, and that to me seems like a prime thing that could be like a manufacturer specific. So, you know, a certain specific manufacturer of autocannon has more rocking or recoil or whatnot than other ones.
When your mech explodes, will it damage things around it? Yes.
In general, I think explosions, we have splash to them. So I think overall explosions will damage things surrounding it.
Will Mechwarrior 5 support RTX? Yes.
There's a question here from Summoner. Will we see casings eject from mechs when they're firing ACs? The answer is yes. All ACs fire, eject shells, and they can fall on your mech depending on the mech design and the weapon location. So you can see them raining from your cockpit, or if you're playing co-op, you'll definitely see them falling off ally.
That's cool. I didn't know that. I'm excited. We got a question about, is there any chance of seeing humans and battle mechs in the same environment or even interacting? Everyone here would...
No, the hangar. I mean...
Well, yeah, the hangar for sure.
It's definitely one of the things I want to see if we have time to do it, is having infantry around, but that's really secondary to delivering a polished.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you do have a very, very good human perspective of your battle mechs in the Leopard hangar. For those that haven't had a chance to be at a mech con and play it, you're walking around the hangar and you see your mechs, and you see them after they're modified and adjusted, and you see them when you come back from battle when they're ripped to shreds and look like garbage, and you see them after they're repaired again and you're sitting on the ground. And I can tell you it's a pretty interesting sight to behold if you're down on the ground looking up at like a Victor or something. So I think you have that, but just from a combat experience, you're going to be in the mech and you're shooting vehicles, tanks, and flyers and other mechs. And yeah, we have talked long and hard about infantry. It'd be very fun. It would really help give a sense of scale. It's just that unfortunately, and I won't get really into it right now, but they could be as expensive as, say, a tank, like a singular infantry, because the animation system using the nav mesh and actually, unless you make it essentially like a stationary particle type thing. So we're going through our options, but it'd be definitely possible. It's just, again, like Nico said, it's if everything else was perfectly done and we were super happy with it, then we'd I think we'll put some time into that.
Question down here about, can you set fire to terrain to affect battles? Yep, they're flammable things. So MechCon, big part of that was you got to protect this little farmstead, keep that from getting burnt up. Expand that to other things. Someone in this morning's AMA talked about trees catching fire, which is possible. We just need to the performance. So fires plays an element into matches for sure.
Will the player model be modifiable, different uniform styles and colors? Unknown at this time. It's probably not something we'll put significant time into, because from a single player perspective, you really don't see yourself, like you're you and you're interacting with the other characters and doing the missions. The only time you really see a player model at all really is in a co-op match. You'll see the other guys, and it's a fairly standard looking uniformed human. So yeah, I think be easy for us to do, but we just have to put the interface in and such. So kind of same answer as some other ones. That's a real easy target. It's just we just have to prioritize it properly as well. What will be the maximum map size expressed in meters? I think somewhere around 8,000 meters square, roughly. I've seen them. I want to say somewhere around 8 to 10 tiles square, and each tile is 750 meters. I think those are big. Probably you won't see too many maps that big unless you're in a scout mission or something where you can move quite quickly. It's quite tedious to head across a map that big in an atlas. So I would say your average one is probably more like half of that, somewhere in the maybe 4,000 meters square-ish, somewhere in there.
There's a question here about, will custom decals be enabled? Custom as far as like decals in general, yes. I mean, you can choose from decal sets. Nothing to the degree of custom as in like, you can paint something up but if you really were so inclined to have a very custom decal, jump in with mods.
Yeah, Ryan said in this morning's session that there's decal sheets, and if you come up with your own custom one, you can plug it in and the system will take it and apply it to every mech. He could go way more in depth than I can, but definitely something that can be done through mods.
Any plans to add in some PGI original mechs? Certainly. The 2 of the 3 originals are in our timeline, and we expect to see them in the game. The Roughneck and the Corsair. Of course, the Corsair I mentioned at MechCon has a special tie-in to Mechwarrior.
Question about the Leopard dropship. Will the interior of it will the whole ship be explorable? Crew rooms, engine rooms, cockpit? Explorable. It's certainly not just, the one walkway where you see your mech, so you can kind of go into your own office and I don't think we have every, square foot mapped out.
Whatever we need to portray the game. We're not going the extra mile of like, here, go down this elevator and go to our crew quarters where there's nothing there except, we're also, one design decision too early was we're getting away from the bit of the old school approach where you are forced to go to a particular room before you can access a console to do, say, merc hiring. I mean, a console's a console. It's kind of like your phone has everything on it. You can pull up a console in the middle of the hangar and go to, pilot hiring. So, but you got the hangar, you got the office, you got the mission area. You have, all the big main areas to explore.
As for the second part of his question, yeah, there's going to be basic NPCs who don't play any critical role, but like your mech techs, security forces, they'll be walking around station doing their jobs.
Yeah, it's not just the key characters.
Yeah, there are others besides the key characters, but I guess the key characters are really the ones you interact with. The others will be, the technicians as you get more and more mechs and, more assault mechs, and the staff. Your monthly upkeep goes up in large part. That's because of more and more technicians around, and they start to fill up the space and kind of generally look busy, but you'll be interacting with the key characters.
All right. Looks like there's a few kind of non-art and environment questions and a bunch of dupes, so just going to kind of sift.
Yeah, I'm kind of skipping a lot of the gameplay ones, guys. Will the environment cause the AI to act differently? I'll talk about that because it's environment. I can give you one example of it. Yes, AI now has the ability to understand if you're taking cover behind a destroyable object, and they may choose to level that cover in front of you and then begin to attack you. So they understand things like that. So that's, it's a dynamic, I guess, gameplay aspect where they do behave differently if you're taking cover with, behind a destructible object.
Yeah, gonna jump ahead. Just a question: will you consider some missions to be done at nighttime, stealthy way? Yeah, we definitely have night environments, or I guess time of day, setting things at night, and some of our levels are set up to kind of allow for approach. So you have stuff like radar stuff and being able to take into account turrets in bases and potentially disabling them, stuff like that. So, we are designing these environments and garrisons to be approached in a way that isn't just you kind of rolling in there. So, will be definitely a viable way to play a lot of these environments and levels. There's a question further down. Two people asking about wildlife. A bunch of people asked about that this morning. I think right now we are not working on any wildlife stuff. A lot of people here in the studio really want it. There's a big contingent who want, a dinosaur planet and all that. So that's definitely a very solid candidate. It's one of the things that we would really like to get to do, and hopefully we can. Going through a bit more. There's a question from Moldy Cheese about, can we use the environment to our advantage, such as shooting out supports on a bridge to bring it down, or causing a landslide or stuff like that. Yeah, so we have the structures that there's the principle of support and all that. So if you blow up the base of a satellite dish, the whole thing will come down. So that kind of logic will extend to certain things, and hopefully players will see some.
Yeah, I think we're wrapping up here. A lot of it's. I think people are slipping into a lot of gameplay questions. Yeah. Yeah, I think we've answered the weather affecting heat quite a few times.
Yeah, I'm seeing a question. Maybe Nico, you can answer this one about. In particular, is there any scale change, such as the environment and trees and all that?
Okay. I wasn't sure if anyone else wanted to tackle that one, but yeah, definitely paying heavy attention to scale. If you've played the MechCon demo and you were there were parts where you could walk through forests, and a lot of the times you would be able to see over the treetops. Like there's no 150-foot trees like Forest Colony. You definitely feel like you're the big guy on the battlefield. That being said, cars and stuff around will still be proper scale to what you are in meters, and you'll be able to really tell that in the Leopard when you have mech tech scuttling around the field.
Yeah, I'm seeing a question about, in terms of destructible environment, you talked about mech explosions. Essentially, will they create craters around the zone? So no craters to the degree that, like, it's new geometry and you could potentially, hide in a crater in the ground. Not to that level.
Number 0 is asking if light mechs will be scaled down to be smaller than an MWO. Currently, scale is pretty similar from mech to mech, as it is in MWO. That being said, changing that is very simple. So modding it to be whatever size you want is as easy as changing a slider in the Unreal tools.
Yeah, and I see there's a question from Deadpool asking, will different planets have different building textures, or is there a set building look? Yeah, the buildings you see is going to vary on the biome. The biome's kind of the thing that drives it, because it doesn't make sense to have certain architecture types, on a moon base. So it will vary based on the biome.
Valis is asking if mechs will be able to kneel down to take advantage to cover. I think this falls into a similar category as knockdowns. Current plans are leaning towards no, as the animation requirement to getting all 50 odd chassis to be able to do that and look good at the same time is just too much of an investment where we could put that time into polishing the game further.
Yeah, there's people trying to give me some abuse that I didn't remember there was a crouch command in past games. I think I seem to remember maybe Mech 2, but to me it almost felt like, hey, in that era of shooters, it's like shooters have a crouch button. We have to give it a crouch button. No, it's not a priority. For that reason, I suppose from a first-person perspective, it's cheap, but so you could do that for the player. But of course, it is the co-op game, which means the co-op players can see you crouch. Therefore, you have to handle the crouch animations. So that's a little different than when you're thinking about Mech 2 and 3 and those ones. They didn't have that problem. And I see your text that you love crouch. I got it. Okay. Is there a max visual range? No. It's not like it's being like far clipping plane or anything like that. You see as far as you can see. So, and
yeah,
no,
I think the only thing that would affect that is like if it's very low visibility due to weather. But
sure, yeah, if it's like super storm, then you're not going to see very far. His earlier question was, can you use abuse AI outside of their detection range? No, I mean certainly if they take a hit, they're waking up regardless. So no real abusing them that way.
Yeah, another question. Oh, sorry. Composite armor. I'm just seeing ask a question about, will some environments have that pre-destroyed look, implying a battle happened beforehand? Yep. In the plans.
Yeah, we did some of that with the Mechcon mission 2 at the farm and stuff. It was like some stuff was already blown up. So everyone wants to know about map size. Everyone wants to know how big the maps can be. I've answered that a few times, but actually I did hear them say there is a theoretical limit. I've heard Dave say a couple times. I can't remember if it's like 12 kilometers square or something like that. I've seen and played like 8 kilometer square type maps. But our map sizes will be what we think is funnest for the mission. So on average, maybe they're only about 3 to 4 kilometers square. These are just kind of guesses, but based on the mission type. And of course, as modders, whatever you could do, whatever you want.
I'm seeing a question from Loki Frog. Will enemy mechs have specific colors, patterns based on faction? I know that was the intent, and I'm pretty sure we're keen on getting that system in.
Yeah, that's planned. Yeah.
There we go.
I actually think we're implementing that like right now as we speak. So that'll be.
I'm going to answer one last one there from Derek. These guys are talking about this after this morning's thing. Russ, I remember you said that previous Mechwarrior games don't have a city environment like in the demo. What did you mean by that? People were asking if there's going to be full urban environments. And I said, look, I mean, yes, and I'd said something along the lines, we'll see what the engine can handle. were some questions like, oh wow, you're still asking yourself those sort of questions, like shouldn't you know by now? Well, let me answer it differently. We already do have urban environments, and I would say I love some of my most memorable moments from the past Mechwarrior games were the urban maps, but those urban maps, of course, and I still love them, don't get me wrong, it was a lot of fun. Extremely simple, extremely basic, and already I would say the MechCon mission in the city environment, in particular the back half of the city environment where you're brawling inside of the city against that enemy lance, is already fulfilling for me, like lifelong Mechwarrior dreams of what an urban combat scenario should feel like. So I think we already have gone, 10 times further than past Mechwarrior games when it comes to giving an urban setting and urban combat environments. And yeah, I do think we could take like that back half of the city from MechCon and just balloon that out for an entire map, and we in that case may have to do draw distances and culling a little bit differently or a little more aggressively just to make sure we can maintain frame rates. But that would be an experience like you've never had before in a Mechwarrior game. Already is if you played the MechCon demo. So let us proceed out of this AMA. What will be the focus of the next AMA? That's a wonderful question, and we should probably we'll think about what we think they're most ready for, but also maybe we'll have Tina and the guys take sort of suggestions from the community as to what is where the most questions are, and we'll see if we can go with that for our next subject. But appreciate everyone showing up.
Sounds good. Thank you, guys. We'll announce the next AMA probably sometime next week, which will be not next week, but the week after, because it's twice a month.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
All right. Night, everyone.
Thank you, guys.